Let's be honest, at some point we've all felt shy and awkward when we talk about our choice to live the child-free life. I think that's a pretty normal feeling. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the reasons that we might be feeling this way when we talk about being child-free with other people. One of the biggest reasons that you do not want to tell people that you were child-free is because you get negative feedback about it. Constantly. For me, it all started back when I was a little kid. I remember very clearly when someone first talked to me about being a mom when I grew up. I remember my response was, I'm never going to get married and I'm never going to have kids. Obviously, I did end up getting married, but I'm not going to have kids. I remember the adult laughing at me and saying, oh, you're so young, you're definitely going to change your mind. Hey, I'm Hannah, the wife without kids. This channel is all about building a positive community to support you in your child-free lifestyle. In high school, nobody talked about being a parent. We were all too concerned about being awkward teens and trying to fit in. My mind was definitely not on kids when I was in college and university, and so life progresses for the most of us, and we really don't talk much about being child-free until maybe we're adults and all of our friends are getting married, or everyone starts having babies, or we get into serious relationships, and then those questions start coming. For the most part, especially when you're a child, you get a lot of negative feedback when you say that you don't want to be a parent. Nobody takes you seriously, so it's not a conversation that we tend to initiate or a conversation that tends to head in any educated direction because you're just told that you're wrong, and so you just assume, okay, I guess I am wrong, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to change my mind. Think about this, every time the topic of child-free comes up and you express your viewpoint that you don't want to be a parent and you're told you're making a bad decision, you are not going to want to be talking about that with anybody, unless you're guaranteed that they are not going to try to get you to change your mind. And yes, there are always those individuals that take what you say at face value and they don't tell you that you're going to change your mind or that you're making a big mistake, but those are pretty few and far between. The second reason you might not want to tell people about your choice to live the child-free life is that you are going to be in the minority all the time. Maybe that will change someday, but for right now, there are probably only about 20% of us that make the choice to not become a parent. In some countries in the world, this is a huge taboo. You don't just not have kids. That's not a thing. That's not what you do. You have the capability of having a kid and you have a kid. That's how it's always been done. That's how it's supposed to be done. When you're in the minority, you often feel like you're just an outsider, that people don't really relate to you, that people don't really get you. You're always just a little bit different than everybody else. I think it's pretty natural for humans to want to be accepted, for humans to feel like they belong to a club or a group of some sort. When you're making a choice that is maybe taboo in some places, that is sort of on the fringe, that is not commonly seen in a positive way, you will never really get that full feeling of acceptance, except within your own child-free community, of course, which is why you're watching this video. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. And here's the thing, you can't even avoid this question if you don't really want to talk about it because it's just seen as being a social topic that people talk about. It's like, what's your job? How many kids do you have? Where do you live? What do you like to do for fun? It's just one of those questions that you know inevitably you're just going to be asked, even if you don't really want to talk about it or get into it with somebody. And when you always feel like you're in the minority, automatically you're going to feel judged. And sometimes this is because you actually are being judged. Maybe sometimes our perception is that we're being judged and we're really not, but more often than not, I have found when this conversation comes up with people, they make a judgment about who you are based on the fact that you are choosing to not have children. Now seriously, who likes to be judged? Anyone out there that likes to be judged? Yeah, not me. Who likes to feel that someone is looking at your life and your life's decisions and picking them apart and telling you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong? It's really not a good feeling. And this is the part where it can get a little bit tough because we have a lot of insight into our own lives. We've lived our pasts, other people haven't. So when people offer unsolicited advice on what we should or shouldn't be doing, it's really hard not to feel judged and not to maybe feel a little bit of resentment because we know why we don't want kids. We've thought about it a lot. We know it's not the right fit for us for a variety of reasons. So when people come at you and they've met you and 2 minutes later they're telling you you're going to regret your decision, it's hard not to think a certain way of that person and their advice that they are choosing to give you. We live in a time where everyone likes to put everyone else in a box, and there are certain characteristics that apply to every single box, and every box has a label. But that doesn't mean that's the best way to define somebody based on one choice that they're making in their life. The most common label that child-free people are given is that they are selfish. Everyone just assumes when they hear that you're child-free, you're a selfish person. What is so selfish about looking at your life and realizing, hey, I wouldn't be a great parent. I don't have any desire to be a parent, so the worst thing I could do is become a parent. I don't have the mental or physical capabilities of caring for someone else. I have a lot of baggage that I need to work through, so therefore I would not be a good parent. Often those deep reflections that we've had about ourselves that have helped us come to the conclusion that we don't want to be a parent are completely overlooked by other people, and it's just seen as you're not willing to sacrifice, you're not willing to get up at night for a crying child, you're not willing to spend money on a child, so therefore you're just selfish. And that is just so untrue. Sometimes the most selfless thing that you could do is not become a parent, especially if you know that you don't have the skill set, the capability, the financial means to care and provide for a child the way that they should be cared for and provided for. The next reason that you might be a little bit afraid to talk about your choice to live child-free is because you aren't feeling confident about your choice to live child-free. Be confident in your choice to live child-free. It's a great option. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, I know for those of us that have the choice to live child-free, it's a little bit easier, but sometimes people are faced with infertility issues or other medical conditions and they can't have kids and they really, really want to be parents. Because of life's circumstances, they are now in a place where they are child-free and maybe it's against their will. Maybe they really want to be a parent. I feel like that would be extremely challenging to work through. I have no idea what that would be like. If life's circumstances have thrown you into this position, I'm really sorry because I can't imagine how difficult this must be. Maybe another reason that you feel kind of afraid talking about your choice to live child-free is because it's just not done in your community, in your culture, in your society, in the religion that you practice. All of these can be factors that hold people back from sharing with others. I recently got a private message from someone that watches my videos and they said, you know what, Hannah, you're really lucky. You live in Canada. You can make the choice to be child-free. I live in a country where it's very frowned upon. It's not accepted at all. People just aren't child-free. We don't do that in our culture and we don't do that in our religion. That message really did make me pause and think for a moment, because even if I may feel like sometimes that I don't know a lot of people that are child-free or that I'm not super supported or that people don't get my choice, you know, people will say what they're gonna say and then they move on with their lives. I'm not in a position where I'm going to be ridiculed daily for my choice, whether that be from my family or the people that are close to me. Yes, we live in the 21st century, but there are still communities of people that have a very specific idea of what the role of a woman is. And some of these traditions are still very strong. A woman is supposed to be married, she's supposed to have kids, she's supposed to take care of her kids. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that being your life's mission and your desire if that's what you want to do. But in the case of this lady that messaged me, she said, I don't want to do those things. I don't want to be a mom. I just want to be child-free. There can be a lot of pressure from people around you and maybe your own family to just do the thing that everybody does, to do the thing that people have always done and that's always made sense. I thought a while before responding and I said to her, you are in a circumstance that is somewhat different than mine, but you have to remember you still do have a choice. It may not feel like you have a choice, but you still do have a choice. And that's why I think it is so important to get this conversation about choosing child-free out into the world. The more often that you're sharing your choice with people to be child-free, the more it gets the word out there, and that can make a really big difference. Even if you don't feel like it will, you have a voice that can reach a community of people that nobody else can. And it would be amazing that in years from now, when children are growing up, they know that they just have a choice to be a parent. They could choose to be a parent or they could choose not to be a parent, and both of those choices are equally okay. When I talk about being child-free, someone will inevitably say or leave a comment on one of my videos, you're just trying to get people to stop being parents. It's not about trying to get people to stop being parents. It's about getting people to understand that they have a choice to be a parent. I totally understand that talking to people about your child-free choice is not the easiest conversation to have, especially with certain types of people. I created a video that gives some helpful tips on how you can be more confident in sharing your child-free choice with other people. Check it out right over here. I will see you next week, and remember, you are never alone.